Can people hear me now? Thank you to whoever helped out with the IT and was able to help get this going. No worries. Thank you so much. All right, wonderful. Well, thank you to everyone for being flexible with the delay. We're going to get going right away. Mr. Ashman, thank you so much for being our moderator. Are we good to go? I'm going to take that as a yes. My name is Hannah Madsen. I am a special education teacher here in the United States. Thank you again for your patience. Welcome to Reading and Behavior Resources for your virtual inclusive classroom. So as we can see, technology sometimes gets in the way. We have to be flexible and patient and go with the flow. So if you go into the chat, if you're just joining us, welcome. In the chat, I posted the handouts early. My hope is that from this presentation, you will be able to have tangible resources that you can use in your classroom, virtually or in person. So all of these handouts are designed, and the strategies that you will walk away with at the end of this presentation are designed to be able to be used virtually and with the flexibility that they can be adapted to any content or subject base. I will be sharing my screen. So again, if you can put in the chat and let me know if you can see everything, just because I want to make sure this goes the correct way while it is loading on my end of the screen. A little bit of an overview, a little bit of background about myself. As I said, I am a special education teacher in the United States. I do have international teaching experience. I was able to do some teaching in Sweden, and that led to my interest in just learning about different educational systems around the world. I completed my master's degree in international educational leadership from Northern Arizona University. We were able to, that led me actually to being invited to join this conference and be able to present. So share content should have worked. We're seeing where this is going to go with us. Are you able to see my screen at all? Yes. Thank you. Yep, scroll up for the link. Okay. Well, again, if there's some, I got share screen going on and it's just loading. So the IT is around or could help again, that would be wonderful. So as I said, I have been internationally teaching, and the different resources that we're going to be going over are, yeah, it's still loading. Thank you. Wonder if I make my screen big, if that'll help. Share content. Still loading. So if anyone has any suggestions, or again, Mr. Ashman, if you could help contact IT. Yeah, I know, I'm sorry. We're working on the screen sharing. Technology is not always the best with virtual learning, but moving forward and being flexible, and when this happens with your students, you just got to keep going. So while we are waiting for the screen share to take place, because I am not sure why screen share is not going on. Well, we'll keep going. So if you go to the handouts, we're going to skip around a little bit just for the sake of time. The handouts that were posted in the chat, hopefully you can all bring those up right now. These handouts are things that I have designed. I've tweaked. There are some strategies that are based on a program called RAD, Reading Apprenticeship Across the Disciplines. And these are different reading strategies that are designed and used to be able to teach reading through any content. So if you think about your science classes or your social studies or history, there are a lot of vocabulary words. There are a lot of technical reading that a lot of our students may struggle with, especially with the students that we work who have special needs. So these strategies, the talk to text, you'll see a brief, if you're on the second page, you'll see a brief description of the different strategies. Talk to text, survival words, note and notice. These are all different reading strategies that no matter what content you have, you can use, and you can use the phrases with your students. It's really hard, for example, survival words. It's very hard to get middle school and high school students, adolescent students, engaged in learning new vocabulary words without it seeming little kid or baby. Survival words is very much the same concept, and the same concept of a word wall. So survival words comes from the idea that you need to know these words to survive the content that you're reading. So these can be words that you as the teacher identify, but primarily you would want your student to be able to identify these different, the new vocabulary words. And again, you can post it up in your room. With virtually learning, I still like to have tangible, personally, I like to have tangible materials. So I will either take a picture and I'll have it hang in my background of wherever I am that I'm presenting at. And then I will also have those pictures and I will load them up to, is the link not working for the handouts? Otherwise, I have all of your emails and we should be able to send them out. But anyways, I'm going to keep going with our survival word wall. So these survival words can be also posted in whatever platform that you are presenting on. So my school district currently uses something called Canvas, and everything is up on there virtually and digitally. So our students are able to access their survival words. And as a game and kind of an incentive, I use survival words also for students to give me survival words. So there's a lot of adolescent slang words and things like that that I don't always know. And so if I want to be the cool teacher, this is a way of engaging of they have their survival words from our readings and I have survival words of the teen language, so to speak. And it's a give and take, and it also helps to include our community and to help to build that. So that's just an example of survival words, of how you can take vocabulary words, again, from science to even math, and all the different words, and putting those up either physically in your room or up into the digital platform that you are using. Note and notice is another one of the handouts that you have in your link. I really don't know why share screen is not working, and I do truly apologize. Let me see if I can upload the PowerPoint, and then you'll be able to access, and we will just go from there. So yes, please, thank you to those of you who are reposting the link of the handouts. If everyone can take another moment or two to try to gain access to the document, or let me know if you are having issues. I am going to post the presentation in the comment section, and then we will just adapt and go from there, and you can open up thank you to the IT person and to the person who just posted for helping with the sharing ability. But in the meantime, I'm still going to post my presentation so we can kind of follow along, and we'll just pick up when the sharing screen is able to work. So if you give me just one moment, I need to exit full screen. And I'm going to bring up my presentation, and I'm going to give you access to share it. And I'm going to there, and I'm going to all right. Let me know if this gives you access to the presentation while we wait for, oh, let me try sharing now. Oh, yay, thank you. So we are maybe good to go. Okay, is everyone able to see my screen now? No. Oh, yes, okay. Oh, wonderful, all right, here we go. So you also have your hopefully a copy of the presentation. And now you should be able to hopefully see my screen. I can't see any of you, and I also can't see the chat. So periodically I will pause and be able to try and check on that. So already covered a little bit about me. One of my big components for wanting to be able to have this opportunity is that I truly believe in the power of collaboration. Being able to go to conferences, being able to meet all of you, hopefully being able to hear back your feedback and your comments about, you know, different connections that you can make to the materials and vice versa. And so this quote really truly is something that I'm passionate about, and I thought was very fitting for our time together today. Again, these are my hopes of what you will be able to get out of this presentation using the strategies, being able to have tangible takeaway pieces from this presentation. So we're going to backtrack just a little bit. I was talking about some of the different reading strategies and examples that we have. And we're going to go from there. So if you have the handouts, I've put them in order. You can have those up along with you. We're going to go over note and notice, takeaway notes, survival words, and talk to text. As I said, all of these strategies are able to be used in multiple different platforms. They're able to be used across all content areas. And some of the ideas are based upon the Reading Apprenticeship Across the Disciplines training, which is presented by West Ed Project. I was trained in this a couple years ago. However, what the materials you have in the handout packet are all things that I have created myself, that I have tweaked and adapted from the trainings to make them more user-friendly and more accessible in the classroom, both virtually and in person, with students with special needs. So note and notice, this is an example. You also have this in your handout. So it's designed, again, it can be an individual one-on-one with a student, or you can use that as a whole class instruction. The important part is the words and what the words mean. So note is designed to look for factual quotations and things like that as students are either annotating or highlighting or underlining different parts of the reading. The notice is to help students doing the metacognition. So going deeper into their reading, making predictions, looking at characteristic traits, and even then pulling out vocabulary words and things that they don't know. It's great to use as a transfer into writing with graphic organizers, and it's a great way of basically a way of taking notes. And that can be for reading. It can also be used for class assignments as well. If there's more like, again, the sciences or social studies where you can use this if there's chapter reading involved. And again, another adaptation too. If you have a student who's not able to have the ability to demonstrate writing, drawing pictures works as well. So drawing pictures of their understanding of what is actually happening in the story or in the reading, and then drawing a picture of what could happen. And it's still a way that you as the teacher can understand, and you can look at check for their understanding. So takeaway notes. This has been my go-to lately for alternative assignments virtually. I have a lot of students right now that I'm currently working with who are struggling with some of the content based in how we are able to teach it virtually. So takeaway notes, it's designed to be used basically with any form of media. So videos, short videos, documentaries, if you use any of those, or even presentations, if you use any of those in your classes or in whole group presentations and teachings, this is a way to check for student understanding, and you can adapt it two different ways. You can have it be student-centered, where the student writes down their 5 takeaways. What do they take away out of their learning from this lesson? And it can be what they thought was interesting, or you can do it where it's based on essential elements of learning standards. So if there's a specific essential element that you are looking for, specific common core standard that you are looking for the student to be able to demonstrate to you that they know, you can have that be the focus on their takeaway assignment. I changed what you have a little bit. This is a student work example from one of the students that I work with. We were working on DNA, and the current assignment was, in how it was teaching, it was much higher than what my student was able to stay engaged with. So I found a couple different short videos and gave it to my student, and he was able to do this independently, and then wrote down what he thought were the most important things to learn about DNA. So again, this is another way to incorporate takeaway notes that can be used for reading. It can be used for videos, and it's a really great tool to use virtually that works really well. Survival words I talked about earlier in the beginning. I'll do a brief recap of this. So this is what I would call the teenage version of, or the adolescent version of a word wall. We know that as our students are older and are going through higher content, that there's a lot more technical vocabulary words or practicing for exams and entrance exams that are coming up. And so this is a version of doing a word wall without it looking too little kid. I also talked about how survival words, and let me backtrack just a little bit. The idea of survival words comes from the idea of, when you're reading, what word do you need to understand to survive the understanding and truly go deeper into the reading. So it goes back to pulling out the essential vocabulary words that a student would need to know to understand the context and the content. So this can be either, again, student-centered, where the students identify what words that they feel they need to know in order to understand the rest of the text, or it can also be assigned survival words. I have in the past had it up on a big piece of felt hanging on the back of my wall with different just index cards and tape, and stuck it up on there. And then I've also done pictures and uploaded it virtually. So that's my adaptation for being able to do and teach survival words virtually. I also had a quick kind of fun, I have teacher survival words, where students choose slang words that I should know, and then I have my own homework of studying survival words. And so it's this give and take, and they quiz me and I quiz them, and it has worked really, really well. I'm going to go over talk to text, and then I'm going to pause and come back and see if there are any questions. We'll do a quick reflection, and then we'll move on to behavior. So talk to text is another approach to annotations and close reading. So these are skills that students with special needs tend to struggle a bit. But it's also a very necessary skill. So talk to text comes from the idea of having a conversation with the author. So it can work with articles, it can work with a science textbook, it can work with a math word problem. The idea is pulling out information, asking questions, and highlighting. And it's modeled and taught in the Think Out Loud approach. And it definitely is a strategy that has to be taught. Now, I don't have a handout for this, the second page in the handout packet kind of explains how to use these. But there's not necessarily a format or a worksheet that goes with this. It's more of the idea and the concept of how to teach annotated writing and reading and close reading, with this idea that you're having a conversation with the author, identifying, oh, I know what this means, and looking at everything from a picture to the title to the word choice, to the year it was published, and not just the heavy content inside the article, but also all the other details around it, and then making those connections. So it can be taught as, again, that conversation. Think of talking with your friend, and the friend is the reading that you're doing. So it's been successful when I've taught high school, and currently teach middle school right now. And we're definitely working on this. But the high schoolers I worked on caught on to this a lot quicker than middle school. So it is something that if you start with the younger students and you keep using the same words and teach in the same style, over time they will be able to do it independently. Okay, so I am going to, I think I can stop share for a moment. Okay, so we're not going to take 3 minutes because we are a little short on time. But I'm hoping that perhaps some of these strategies have inspired you, or you've made some connections to what I've talked about so far. Maybe you're thinking of different ways that this can be incorporated into your current lesson. I'll pause for a moment. Does anyone have any questions on the reading strategies so far? No? All right. I will go back to screen sharing. And well, if I can. Okay. Yeah, if you have any questions, just raise your hands. Yes. I believe there's one question so far. Okay, so I see we have one question about how to use these with non-readers. So this would go back to, for the example, like the note and notice, this would be where you can do pictures. So either if your student is able to draw pictures, you can, or if you have 2 picture choices and have your student point to the picture that describes a factual part of the story, and that will help with the note part. For survival words, another technique that I use for all students is to draw the vocabulary word. And this concept of drawing the vocabulary word is extremely helpful in the sense that for any student, whether they're a non-reader or not, and it helps to connect that meaning. And it's really actually interesting to see what students interpret when they draw a vocabulary word. So I hope that answered your question. I believe there was one other question that I may have missed. There was one about a non-reader. I'm sorry if you could answer your question again. We have a lot of participants here and I'm trying to sort through. Oh, okay. I see one that there's a question about visual arts and incorporating reading into the lessons. So in the States, visual arts is more like different like medias and like using like coding and things like that. I'm not sure if that's what visual arts is for you. So if you could clarify that, but definitely using these terms for any articles where you're talking about either the history of visual arts or different businesses that have done coding or technology, or if it's a library media type science. And then you can build in these words as well. I'm sure there are vocabulary terms that you would want your students to know. So having a survival word wall would also work as well. Yeah, so how to draw a vocabulary word. I don't have my student sample with me, but a few years ago, one of the words that we had was orbit. So, for example, if you had orbit, asking a student to draw what is orbit, what does it look like? And the definition of orbit is to, revolve around something. And so sometimes students' pictures would look like there'd be like a planet and then dots going around it, or there would be a stick figure in the middle and a circle ball going around in a circle. So there's lots of different ways. And again, having students draw vocabulary words was something that was really surprising to me as a teacher because they got really creative with how they drew their interpretation of the meaning of the vocabulary word. And I found later on too, when they were drawing their vocabulary words, the meaning and the definitions stuck with them a lot longer on the words that they drew versus the words that they did not. So I hope they answered some questions for now. I'm going to keep going with our behavior and etiquette lessons because I'd like to stop and make sure that we touch base on that. And then there'll be more time for questions later on. So I am going to, here we go, share screen again. All right. So next section is our behavior management and etiquette strategies. And the three basic ones that I'm going to talk about today are virtual classroom contracts, virtual classroom reward system, and etiquette lessons that can be used to help build a classroom community and also that can be used out in society. So a virtual classroom contract, this can be used for many different things. Currently, my school district is using Zoom as our platform. Nope. Are we still screen sharing? Nope, sorry. Okay, here we go. Okay, so for classroom contract. So this can be done for a Zoom. So for the Zoom expectations, what you expect your students to how to act or how to respond or what to do when they come onto Zoom, but also making sure that within a classroom contract that it goes both ways. And this has to do with having a discussion, a whole class discussion on what students feel are acceptable behaviors in the Zoom virtual classroom for themselves, but also for you as the teacher. When students feel that something goes both ways, they're definitely much more willing to be responsive and respectful, and we're willing to follow the contract. One of my things is set up, you keep it short and simple, between 5 to 10 different classroom rules, and everyone signs it. So it's an agreement. That would be something that I also would put on the back of my wall of wherever I'm virtually teaching, and a picture of it loaded up virtually. It still can act as a visual, and also making sure that not only do you have the words written out, but you have a picture of what the rule is. So for the non-readers, there is still a visual aspect in your classroom contract, and it's still a whole inclusive approach to managing behavior. These are just some different examples of how classroom contracts can be used and very specific ones. A picture is a sample of a classroom contract I used as our thoughtful campaign. So I worked with a class of students that all had emotional behavioral disorders, and there was a lot of revolving doors in the beginning of the school year. And I noticed that students weren't really treating each other very respectfully. So this came out of that. We together agreed on what does thoughtful look like, what does being kind look like, and we wrote down those actions. And for every time that they did something that benefited the whole class, they earned a pom-pom. And that connects to our reward system, which I will move on to next. So as you can see, there's pom-pom jar in the corner in our thoughtful campaign. And so for halfway through up the jar filled with pom-poms for students doing kind things in the classroom, they earned a reward. And then if the jar was completely full, they earned a whole class reward. And again, the rewards had to be agreed on with the group, and so did all of these different actions. So everything was voted on and agreed upon. I also had a classroom reward system with coupons, believe it or not. So our school has, we call it Paws Up. You also have a version of these coupons in your handout section. And the Paws Up version is like a reward for doing something good or following rules. And I would do a drawing. So the kids would put their name on their talent, put it in, or their Paws Up. And then once a month, they would get to, I would do a drawing, and they would get to choose a coupon. Just the fact that they won what was on the coupon was great. The fact that there's an expiration date on it actually made them pay attention and turn them in. One year, I had a group of students where just getting the coupon was enough, and they never turned it in. A following year, I had students who they were very aware of that expiration date, and they were turning them in. All right, an etiquette lesson. This is something that I'm very passionate about. I realized, again, I had a group of students who didn't necessarily know how to follow social cues and appropriate guidelines in the classroom and in society. So you have a sample in the handout. I don't know if you can see my screen, but I'm holding that up as well. And it's an etiquette lesson. So within the etiquette lesson, it's set up as a template. So feel free to use this for anything that you want to teach. It can be how to socially distance, how to greet without shaking a hand, or how to still do other forms of physically distanced greetings. It can be how to pass out papers and help if you're an in-person or hybrid model, or how to, properly behave on Zoom. So all these different etiquette lessons, there is a history about it. So the example that I have is how to send and receive messages. Messages of like, if your mom says, hey, I'm running out to the store, tell your brother I'll be back in 5 minutes. Well, what do? You receive the message. What do you do with it? So it's helping that life skill, because it's something that can be used in the classroom. It's a skill that's going to be necessary for a job and out in the community as well. So there's a history of it, there's a purpose of it, and then there's a how-to. And the part with this etiquette lesson, it's designed to be taught in 10 minutes, once a week, and then students track how often that they find themselves in that situation using that skill. And then there's reflection questions at the end. So the etiquette lessons is definitely something that can be incorporated, especially now when there are things that are changing a lot in our society, and how to help our students, especially those with special needs, understand and pick up on maybe the social cues that they struggle a little bit, and then creating lessons around that. Now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and allow for any questions or feedback that you have. I know we have about a minute left. So again, thank you for your patience at the beginning. I know we started late with technology. I wanted to be able to have workshop time, and I would really love to still be able to help you with that. So I am going to share my contact information. So if you'd like to reach out and ask those questions, since we ran short on time with a workshop portion of our presentation, please feel free to do that, because I would love to be able to work and collaborate with you on those assignments and lessons. Okay. I just have one more thing to leave you with today. So change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. And that is a quote by Robin Sharma. And we are definitely in education where things are changing all the time. And it's just important to remember that the goal is helping our students learn in whatever platform we can teach them in. And that is something that I wanted to leave you with. Again, here's my contact information if you would like to reach out. I apologize for not being able to get to our workshop portion of the presentation due to timing, but if that is something that you would still like to do, I would be more than happy to be able to collaborate with you and help workshop through some things and strategies on how to use these and incorporate them into your lessons. I hope some of this information you found helpful. I hope you are able to, walk away from this presentation with some information that you can use in your classroom. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was a real stern presentation, and I have no doubt we are going to walk away from this presentation being enriched and ready to incorporate some of these strategies in our own teaching.
Thank you so much. I hope so. That's my hope as well. My purpose was I hope there was something that it lived up to the description, and that there's something tangible that you can use with it and practical that you can take away and use right away.
Sure.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of your feedback and your comments.
Do we have time for any questions?
Well, I believe right now there's a break going on, so I am more than willing to stay on and answer questions if anybody would like that. So yeah. I'm not sure if there's a way to, I know this was recording, so I know that. I'm not sure how to get the recording. That's a very good question, and I will work on figuring that out. Thank you.
Okay. Well, since we have a break,
Yeah.
so we could just go accordingly. There's a break now. Excellent presentation. Excellent.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I can post my contact information back. Oh, actually, you know what? I can put it right here in the chat. That would probably work out better.
Okay, Mr. Dillon, he's saying that the recording will be posted on the website. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Dillon?
Yes, that looks like that.
Okay, good. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so you'll be able to see the recording there, and that'll be helpful to have. Thank you, Mr. Dillon. That'll be helpful to have later on to pull out too.
Right. We want to thank all the persons who have logged on. We thank you so
Yes.
much for being in our company, in our virtual space, and we want to thank Mr. Dillon for being present to monitor things. We
Yes.
want to thank you all so much for sharing with us today.
Thank you.
And of course, again, we say thanks to our presenter who made this session come alive, and you have inspired us to go forward and to use these strategies in our own classroom. Thanks again.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. I hope our collaboration together will be able to benefit both of us. I've learned a lot from this experience, so thank you to all of you for your feedback and help with this. There was a question, it looks like, about the virtual rewards. So,
Yes.
like I said, I can take time to answer questions. I know you are all on have a break, I believe. So, yeah. So, the virtual rewards, I created them to be used virtually. I've used them in the past in person. So, an example of an in-person virtual reward was I had like comfy chairs that I had set up in a reading corner in my classroom, and the students always wanted to sit there. So it became, well, if you were drawn out of the monthly drawing, you could choose the coupon that said you could sit in the comfy chair for one lesson. And so there were things like that. There were things where I did a bell ringer every day. So it allowed me time to either a thoughtful question posed, and students would reflect and write on it, or it would be to correct a lesson, like a sentence, use their survival word, draw a picture, and write that definition. And during that time, I would take attendance. I would check in with students who needed that time to check in with me. And one of the rewards was you didn't have to do a bell ringer that day. You could just sit and hang out. So I made sure that the rewards that I used had guidelines and were something that students wanted. So getting student feedback was important in creating the rewards that worked. So what I provided were just examples that could work virtually, but you can also absolutely make them work in person as well. And feel free with the handouts, you can edit it to fit your school and your classroom and your teaching situation. So you have permission for that. All right. Thank you, everyone. Are there any other questions? Thank you again so much for your feedback. This is actually my first time ever giving a presentation. So I really enjoyed it. I'm very passionate about this. So thank you.
Thank you too.
The second handout, do you mean the presentation? The PowerPoint presentation? I can try and post that again. Someone said it didn't work last time. Maybe it'll work again. So thank you. Like I said, I'm more than welcome to sit and chat. I'd love to hear if anybody would like to share their experiences, what it's been like teaching for you in different virtual platforms. I'd love to hear about that. I'm fascinated. I love learning about different educational systems and different educational teaching opportunities. So, all right, let me work on the PowerPoint then and making sure that it works. Thank you for letting me know that that link didn't work. Otherwise, I'll also see if there's a way to upload the PowerPoint with the recording, and that would be able to help as well, hopefully. Okay. I believe someone posted the evaluation form in the chat. I am not sure if that was, we have to scroll up for that. I'm hoping this will let me share. So how to help primary school students with intellectual disabilities to read fluently. I would work on using probably the survival word technique, as well as the note and notice, but with pictures. And then not only just, depending on the student's ability, if they're able to draw a picture, have them do so. Otherwise, have picture choices. Have a picture choice of what is there and a picture choice of like what didn't happen in the reading. And I'm sure it would be like smaller, shorter readings that you would be using with the student. You could also do where a student designs the cover of a story. So if you read the story to the student, but don't show them any of the pictures, and then have them draw what they hear, it will help you as a way to evaluate their understanding. It will help you with evaluating if they can follow auditorially in a story. And then it'll also help you to gather information on whether or not the student understood what was talked about in the story by having them draw like a picture of the cover or a picture of what they just heard from the reading. So in that sense, it would help with reading comprehension. To read fluently using songs and rhymes help a lot just with practicing those sight words. And the sight words will help with the fluency. I hope that answers the question. I'm not sure. Let me see if I can find the... So I would go with something, so the question is, would they draw just one picture and how long would the story be? It really would be up to your student's ability and what you want to measure. I think that was the, I just posted a link in there and I believe that is the one for the feedback form. So if you have a student and they're reading at about a kindergarten level, attention span is going to be fairly short. So you want a shorter story that's maybe very short sentences and things like the cat can sit. The cat sits on the mat. The cat is next to the bat. And very short sentences like that. So having the student read it and then draw the picture. There's also reading fluency strategies too, where it's picture words for students with intellectual disabilities, and this helps with fluency too. So the pictures become the context clues for the student in their reading. There's a source called News to You. And I put that in the chat. News to You has articles where it is set up at varying level of fluency skills, and they have the picture that goes with the word. And so the words are spaced out on the article, and then there's pictures that are right below it that go with each word or each action in the sentence. And this helps a lot with fluency and building that understanding. So yeah. All right. Thank you. So I'm not sure if we just end or if somebody else ends the meeting. Like I said, if there's more than happy to hear from you. I know there is a break in the schedule. I'm not sure when the next session starts. So yeah.
Okay,
so
thank you.
you're welcome. So there's another question that says, do you think it would be safe, appropriate to group students who are of different ages but read at the same level? For example, a fourth grader and a first grader. I think there's a lot of different ways that you could do that. So it would be more of what your school policy is and scheduling. If you can make the schedule work for a fourth grader and a first grader, I would phrase it, if the fourth grader struggles with not wanting to be with the first grader, not necessarily going to have the problem with the first grader being with the fourth grader. They're going to be very excited to be with an older student. But if you are running into a problem where the fourth grader doesn't want to be anywhere near the first grader, setting it up as this is your reading buddy. So we're going to be reading buddies and we're going to work together on our reading and we're going to read to each other and we're going to take turns. That would probably be my engagement, my attention grabber to get the student engaged in being grouped together. And then, you know, also building in maybe some social emotional skills too, or games as well, where the fourth grader can feel like they're helping the first grader as well. And it's in a kind of a non-academic type setting to help build that relationship so that they are comfortable then with struggling in front of the first grader with their reading. There's another question about what are some reading strategies to use to help improve boys' reading skills. And what I have found that have worked working with high school boys is finding high engagement, so high interest level books that are at a low Lexile. And I have a style of teaching where I will rephrase things that is very much more in a modern language that students are more like, think it's funny that the teacher's trying to be cool. And that seems to help with the engagement part with the reading. If you can find a story that hooks them in, that would be definitely the way to go to help improve boys with the reading skills, because then it's just the time spent with the book. All right, you're welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And if there aren't any more questions, I look forward to getting your feedback and hopefully being able to see you on social media. And I wish you all the best, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your school year. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and the very same.
Thank you. All right.